Hello and welcome to Warhammer Wednesday. This will be my review of the Death Guard Blightlord Terminators. They'll set you back £35. I don't think that's too bad for 5 Terminators. I think when I last checked, the 5 Tartarus and the 5 Cataphracti Terminators, the Space Marine ones from Games Workshop, I think they were £35 too. But you do get a fair few more options with those kits, such as 5 sets of Lightning Claws, all of your Power Fists, Chain Fists, Combi Bolters, things like that. You still get a few options in this kit, but nonetheless, what I'll do is I'll talk about the models individually, then as an overview, then I'll do some size comparisons, and then I will go into the rules. So right here I've got the 5. It's a little bit misleading on the front of the box, or on the back of the box actually, because it shows an illegal, I don't like to use the word illegal, but it shows a non-legal sort of setup for a squad. We all know that for every 5 models in the squad, only 1 can take that heavy weapon, and in this case it's either a Reaper autocannon, a Blight launcher, or the Plague Spitter. Whereas the front of the box and the back of the box, they show sort of 2. And I think from a competitive point of view, it probably would be best running 2 units of these, all equipped with the combi plasmas or combi melters and bubotic axes. Maybe bale swords. My champion, this is my champion right here. That Blightlord champion. He's got some horns going on. I mean, the detail on all these is fantastic. They are monopose. By that I mean completely monopose. You can't move their head in a certain direction. You can't move their arms in a certain direction, and their legs and their torso are static. So if you're going to buy a second box of these, which as a collector I probably would have done in the future, you are going to end up with models that look exactly the same, except for maybe their weapon loadouts slightly. And it's not like this arm can fit onto that arm just because it's a combi bolter. No. You pretty much only have a choice of either 2 melee weapons for this torso and 2 range weapons for this torso, because of the way the sockets and the plugs are sort of moulded. So this is the champion. I've given him a bubotic axe. I'll go through the rules in a moment. And I've given him a combi melter. It's nice to have, Terminators with combi weapons, all of them, and sort of okay, decent melee weapons. So very imposing, lots of detail, as I said before, lots of kind of things happening with this model. And each one is quite unique. I'll go through the spare parts in a moment too. So that's the champion. We've got this guy, and this is probably would be a more competitive sort of loadout. I've got the Grinny guy. I mean, I would have really liked to have him with the Plague Spitter, but I've gone for the Bug guy with the Reaper autocannon instead. If I got another box, I'll probably have him grinning with the Plague Spitter, but then again, he's going to look very similar, unfortunately. But yeah, with a grinning helmet, and he's just aiming this combi plasma, probably overcharging it. He doesn't care. And he's got this bubotic axe, and then he's just spilling out of his armour. Too many cakes, too many sausage rolls, as is the case. And there we go. And then this guy, wow, this weapon. Whew, this weapon is very, very good. I'll go through the rules, but it's very decent, and that's why it was just a no-brainer for me to swap out combi weapon and axe or bale sword for him. Again, this guy's spilling out of his armour, lots of tubing and wiring and things coming out of his carapace, and again, a bit of a steampunk feel to the back of his armour too. This guy, he's got this bale sword. Looks quite decent, sort of striding forward. Part of his face is now missing. He's got some growths and things coming out of his horn. And this guy's got a combi flamer. It's not my choice. You only get 1 of each type of combi, which I think is very poor. And I personally think that this set should have had 3 sprues, and it should have had all the carapaces, the legs and the torsos on 1, and then all the weapons and the arms divided on another 2. I think 2 sprues is yeah, it's a bit much, because in a way you are paying £17.50 for each one of those plastic sprues, which I do think is a bit much. 3 sprues would have been better, and they should give you all the options. They should give you all the combi flamers or all the combi melters. There's no motivation to buy a second set if they're all going to look the same just to get one extra combi melter. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, he's got a little nurgling hiding in there in his belly. Yeah, and another horn growing out of the model. I mean, you know, equipping them with the weapons that you need them to be equipped with aside, they are decent looking models, jam-packed full of detail. For plastic, it's just incredible. And then finally, one of my favourites, give this guy a hug. It looks like a Gene Stealer's sort of giving him a reach around almost. It's got all these spikes, very sort of Deathnote-esque. Definitely going to paint them blue or maybe even orange, who knows. And there's a nice another bale sword, and then this whopping great big Reaper auto cannon. I wanted to keep with that kind of vibe. As much as I like the Blight launcher, the Plague Splitter's alright, but as much as I like the Blight launcher, I do like the look of the Reaper auto cannon, especially with my Imperium Cataphracti Terminators. So yeah, another decent model, another decent sort of bug type model with spikes and hairs and things growing out of him. So there you go, that is all the models individually. Overall, I think they're a decent set of models, but like I said before, you're probably going to end up with duplicates if you buy another set, and you can't equip them with all the things that you really need to. So that being said, let's do a bit of a size comparison. So with the Champion and a Primaris Space Marine, they're sort of on par almost, height-wise. Well, where the eyes are, the Primaris is a little bit taller, but obviously the Terminator's just that much thicker, got a lot of thickness to him. Compared to a Poxwalker, yeah, towers above a little Poxwalker. And Lord of Contagion. Lord of Contagion's got much more presence, but then again he's on a much bigger base and he's a thicker model. But I think these would work well around a Lord of Contagion. If you wanted to build a sort of Terminator sort of bodyguard squad around him, they would work very well. And then finally, next to a sort of standard Death Guard. There we go. So just to give you that look. Okay, so spare parts. This is all of your spare parts. I don't know if another reviewer has done this yet, but these are all your spare parts. So there's the Plague Spitter. You got the Blight launcher. One of the axes, robotic axes. Couple more. One more bale sword. Some of the armor plates. Shoulder armor plates, yeah, you get a fair few of those. You get 3 heads, 3 extra heads. I like them all except for this one, which just looks like he's blowing bubbles. But apart from that, yeah, it's just really odd that you get 4 more extra bits of combi bolters. I mean, I know, you know, if you don't want to take the points and you just want to go for combi bolters, that's cool. But wouldn't it have made more sense if sort of you had an extra 2 plasmas and 2 melters and only 1 more extra combi bolter? I mean, that's just, it seems like they built this kit from a design perspective way more than like a rules perspective. They give you the 3 heavy weapon choices. That makes sense because you know, they've got to give you that kind of choice, even though you can only pick 1. And if you bought another set, then again you could only pick 1. So these are all going to be wasted. You're never truly going to be able to use these on other Terminator models. I don't think you could even get away with using them on standard Death Guard. But it would make more sense if they gave you possibly a few more swords, a few more axes, and the melter and plasma options, because like I said before, you only get 1 of each, which is terrible. If they gave you sort of 3 maybe, or even the 5, that would make more sense, and that would have been a welcome addition. But this is just what you get. So bear that in mind when you get this set. Okay then, that being said, let's get into the rules. These Blightlord Terminators, you'll find them in your Death Guard Codex under Elites, right next to the Death Shroud Terminators, not to be confused with them, which are more of a bodyguard for like characters. Blightlord Terminators, they've got a whole page for their data sheet, which is incredible. They're a power level 14, and I'll go through their stat line. So your standard Blightlord Terminator has movement 4 inches, which falls in line with all the other sort of Death Guard Terminator models. Weapon skill it's skill 3+, strength 4, toughness is 5 though, wounds 2, attacks 2, leadership 8, and a save of 2+. But super, how does that compare to Space Marine Cataphractii Terminator squad? I hear you ask, or possibly not ask. Well, the Cataphractii Terminator squad for Space Marines is power level 12, so it's 2 less. However, they don't get that toughness 5, and that's it. Everything else is the same. All the movement, the weapon skill, and things like that. But we all know that you're not just getting your toughness 5 for that extra 2 power. There's a few other things. So let me continue with the Blightlords. So the only difference with the champion is that he gets 1 more attack and a better leadership. You can also increase the unit size by including an extra 5 Terminators, and their standard war gear, they're all equipped with a combi bolter and either a bale sword or a bubotic axe. I'll just go through the war gear options, then I'll talk about all the weapons. Any model may replace its combi bolter with an item from the combi weapons list. It's pretty decent. For every 5 models in the unit, so it's the same as all the other data sheets in this regard, for every 5 models in the unit, 1 Blightlord Terminator may replace their combi bolter with a Plague Spewer, Reaper Autocannon, or Blight Launcher. So that's your typical, there's 5 in a squad, 1 of them can have that heavy weapon. Much like with the Cataphractii Space Marines, where 1 of them can have a heavy flamer, and like the Tartarus, where you can get a heavy flamer or Reaper Autocannon. Furthermore, for every 5 models in the unit, 1 Terminator may replace their combi bolter and bubotic axe or combi bolter and bale sword with a flail of corruption. And I don't see why you wouldn't do that, because it is incredible. Let me go through the weapon profiles then. So the Blight Launcher is a range 24-inch weapon. It's assault 2, strength 6, AP -2, and a damage of D3, and it's a plague weapon too. So that's a very solid choice to make. You got 2 shots. They're assault, so it's not affecting your ballistic skill. Your AP -2 is alright, but your damage 3 in the plague weapon is really where it's at. Then the combi bolter itself is again 24-inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 4, damage 1. But you can give him a combi flamer, which reduces the shot down to a rapid fire 1, and 8-inch for the flamer, and that automatically hits the target, and that's really good for Overwatch. Combi melter, you're getting this 12-inch assault 1, strength 8, AP -4, D6 damage melter weapon, and again if it's within half the range of that, so it's within 6 inches, you get to roll 2 D6 and just discard the lowest. Combi plasma, probably one of the better options. You're getting a rapid fire, strength 7, AP -3 shot, and it can also supercharge it, which increases the strength and damage by 1, but obviously any hits of a 1, the bearer is slain after weapon shots have been resolved. So that's the only downside, is that you're going to be deleting your Blightlord Terminators if you go for the plasma option. Another heavy weapon here, the Plague Spewer, like a heavy flamer really, 9-inch range, heavy D6 type, and strength 5, AP -1, and 1 of damage. It's a plague weapon and it automatically hits. That's excellent. Reaper Autocannon, you've got 36-inch range, but it is a heavy 4, so it's going to be knocking down your ballistic skill to a 4+ instead. Still pretty decent though with the strength 7, but no other sort of extra damage, or it's not a plague weapon or anything like that. So obviously heavy weapons are circumstantially specific. However, the Blight Launcher seems to be one of the best solid options for the squad. Now we go on to the melee weapons. So you've got the Bale Sword, the Bubotic Axe, and the Flail of Corruption. The Bale Sword, melee weapon, AP -3, damage 1, but it is a plague weapon. The Bubotic Axe, +1 strength, so they're now the strength of 5, but it's only -2 for the AP, and again it's a plague weapon. The Flail of Corruption though is where it's at. It bumps up the strength to +2. The AP is -2, which isn't too bad, but the damage is 2. Furthermore, it's a plague weapon, and you make D3 hit rolls for each attack of the weapon instead of 1. Excess damage from the weapon is not lost. Instead, you keep allocating damage to another model in the target unit until all the damage has been allocated, or the unit has been destroyed. So that's horrific. You've got something that's a strength 6, AP -2, and I'll talk about the Aura of Rust in a moment, but it's a damage 2 plague weapon, D3 hit rolls instead of just the 1. So you make D3 hits for each attack of the weapon. So Blightlord Terminator, charging in, you've got your 3 attacks. Yeah, it can be quite horrific. You can delete quite a few units with that weapon, and because the damage spills over and it's not lost. So the abilities: Death to the False Emperor and Disgustingly Resilient. So that really helps. There's 2+ save normal, 4+ invulnerable, and then they get this 5+ to ignore their wounds. So very resilient. Teleport Strike, you can teleport them. Not sure whether you'd want to do that, but again, with the toughness 5 and all those modifiers, they are quite survivable, and it might be worth just having them appear to take out a unit with their plasmas or even their melters. But with the melter, you're not really going to be within half that range for the extra d6. The Cataphractii armor, as always, 2+ normal, 4+ invulnerable, and then you've finally got at the bottom this Aura of Rust ability, which means each time you make a wound of a 6+, for one of the unit's melee weapons, you increase the AP of that attack by 1. So if it's an AP -2, it becomes an AP -3. And this is where the Bubotic Axes and the Flail of Corruptions really take hold. Even the Bale Sword, I suppose. You're getting the Bale Sword now at -4 AP if you roll 6s to wound. You're getting the Bubotic Axes at -3 if you go for 6s. And the Flail of Corruption, similar story. So this Aura of Rust is a great little feature, and I'm pleased they added that, because if they didn't add that, other than their toughness 5 and their disgustingly resilient, things like that, they wouldn't really be able to stand apart from other Terminators. So for an extra 2 more power, they certainly do pose a real challenge to your Tartarus or your Cataphractii sort of Space Marine Terminators. They've got the better toughness, they've got the Death to the False Emperor, they've got the 5+ sort of feel no pain, isn't it? They've got the plague weapon rules. Yes, they're not sort of power fists or anything like that, but they're still very good, and they're still very good at deleting sort of standard Space Marines. I'd also like to see them go toe-to-toe with Terminators as well, but there we go. Okay, that's all I really wanted to say about the Blightlord Terminators. I think they're great looking models. They're very unique. I mean, this is my first experience of getting like a single set of Death Guard models so far in the collection. But based on these, I'd really like to get the Death Shroud Terminators. I think the rules are decent, especially for their power level. I only just wish that the kit itself contained more options to make use of those unit configurations that you might want to try out. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you think they're great models? Do you think they've got some decent rules? Please do put your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.